Joining me now is Dr. Mohamad Nedal Al Chaar, Secretary General of AAOIFI. Dr. Al Chaar, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
What impact do you think the AAOIFI rulings at the beginning of the year has had on the market, and has it provided the clarity that you were hoping it would do?
Well, actually, the statement was coincident to a conference that we were having in Bahrain, and it was made by the chairman of our Sharia board. And I would think that this statement was like a wake-up call for investors to make sure that what they're doing is Sharia compliant. It's a very fundamental issue, a very important issue that we have to focus on in all of our transactions, that they have to be Sharia compliant. It's the essence of Islamic banking and finance, and once you deviate from Sharia principles and rules, you render yourself as non-Sharia compliant. So it's very important. I think it was a very important statement, and it was like a wake-up call for the industry. And unfortunately, the statement was taken out of proportions by the media at one point in time, because what was meant by sukuk that were not Sharia compliant, we were talking about non-ijara sukuk. Mm-hmm. And those about only like 30 to 35% of the market. So the ijara sukuk were okay. It's just some of the other type of sukuks were not completely Sharia compliant.
But this has had an impact in terms of supply in the market now, and issuers now need more tangible assets in order to issue, which makes it harder.
Well, the impact came from misunderstanding and misinterpreting the statement. If the statement was read, in the right way, and wasn't taken out of context, you wouldn't have had, that kind of fear or that kind of, unease about this whole issue. But if you were to read the statement, it was very clear, and it was direct to the point. Also, this coincided with our efforts, to review our standards. At the time the statement was made, we were already in the process of reviewing the whole standard of sukuk. So everything came together at that one point, and of course you see misinterpretation in the market, and that's typical.
What feedback have you had from both potential borrowers and investors?
Well, after we have issued our statement and clarified the whole issue, it was very positive. And again, that coincided with the downturn that we all see now in the markets. So some people might relate this to our statement that the slowdown in sukuk issuance. But to be fair, it's really not the case. It is the statement that coincided with the economic downturn.
Do you think that this does not help in Sharia finance becoming a mainstream market and it's still a niche market? Do you think that problems like this have prevented it developing into a mainstream market?
Not at all. Not at all. And in fact, those I would call wake-up calls are extremely necessary and fundamental to the growth of this system. You have to do it right. I mean, you cannot deviate and do things the way you see fit. I mean, there is a Sharia board that has the best and most prominent Sharia scholars who come up with those, comes up with those rulings. And it's very fair to ask the industry participants to adhere to those rulings and principles, because after all, this is a religion-driven system, and everything has to be Sharia compliant before you can call it Islamic.
And in terms of becoming a mainstream market, what further reform is necessary, do you think?
We believe that this system, the Islamic banking and finance system, constitutes an alternative for Muslims. They could go and do their transactions the Islamic way. For non-Muslims, it really constitutes an option. It's an option for you as international investors to tap on different resources, different geographic areas, different markets, different mindset. So it's an opportunity for non-Muslims to participate in this system. For Muslims, it is an alternative, and I think there is a huge demand for this alternative, and we can see it by the incredible rate of growth that this industry has been witnessing.
But obviously that growth has been stifled by what's going on globally in the financial markets. Do you think people have been caught by surprise to the extent that the Islamic finance industry has been hit by the global crisis?
Well, we were all hit by surprise. I mean, we were taken by surprise. I mean, the skies were falling, So, and the Islamic banking and finance system is part of this world economic order. We cannot deny the fact that we are part of this and will be affected by economic downturns and economic booms as well. And there is no complete immunity What we have is maybe special checks and balances that would probably give us partial immunity against, economic downturns or financial downturns.
What do you mean by specific checks and balances?
Well, I mean, we don't get involved in speculations. For example, we don't deal with derivatives. All of our transactions are based on real assets, so we're working on the real side of the economy. Now, when the financial system gets hurt, the effects will be minimized, but when the real side of the economy gets hurt, we are like everyone else.
But a lot of these transactions are structured around real estate, and obviously real estate has been at the centre of the global crisis. So, again, that's going to badly impact the industry, is it not?
Not all transactions are, related to real estate. Some are, and sizable volume of those transactions were related to real estate. This is, again, an economic downturn, and we'll have to be part of it. I mean, we will suffer as everyone else. But the lucky part of this whole thing that the Islamic banking, the Islamic financial institutions came to this like in late stages, not in the beginning. So the suffering will be less, but there will be some suffering, definitely.
I mean, how far do you think growth will shrink, the growth rate of the industry will shrink?
Well, I really don't have a specific answer, and I don't suppose anyone else does have an answer. I think the downturn is severe, it's massive, and it's going to hurt, and it will hurt more.
Do you think the industry has become too reliant on international participants, be they on the investor side or on the sell side, the banks are structuring the deals?
Yeah, there is partial reliance on international banks, and this stems from the fact that it's a banking industry and bankers are usually Westerners. And the willing or the desire to spread the system was the reason behind relying on international banks. I believe the system should start in a local, from local places and then spread out to international bankers. On the other hand, you do have a desire from international banks to come into the system and tap on the resources that are available. So it's a two kind of desires from the demand and the supply side as well. And I don't see anything wrong with that as long as you are adhering to the Sharia principles and rules.
But do you think that has been one of the failings of the industry so far in not developing a local industry enough?
I don't think the system has failed, if I understand your question. I think the system is growing still. This is a system that is still at its infancy, so you would expect mishaps and you would expect some violations. I think that's only healthy. So we're doing well, and I think the word spread, and this system is here to stay. It's going to exist.
How big a challenge is standardization, and how do you ensure greater standardization without stifling creativity?
Well, it's the focal part of our system to standardize, and that would give us the credibility that we need. Remember, we are building a new system, a new financial system. And if you don't standardize, if you have heterogeneous type of products, that affects your credibility, affects your ability to market across borders, across markets, across, geographically. So standardization is a must. And especially when you are dealing with such a sensitive issue as religion. We're not talking about, a financial system. This is a financial system that is driven by faith. And you have to be very sensitive to that and adhere and cater to that faith. So when you standardize, it's not going to stifle growth. It will establish a rhythm that you need in the market for people to do the same thing all over. Because any deviation in practice could be rendered as Sharia non-compliant, and since this whole system is based on faith, there will be a problem when that happens. So we believe standardization is a way to go, and it's the best way to spread this system by standardizing it.
But doesn't there need to be greater collaboration between bodies such as yourselves and other regulators, both in the Gulf and in other Islamic centres such as Malaysia and other parts of Southeast Asia?
We do cooperate, and we cooperate with the Islamic centres. We cooperate with Western centres as well, and we're benefiting from the experience that we get from those centres, especially from the West. And it's really a meeting of mindsets. At the end of the day, people have to understand the premise of the system before they can get involved. Sometimes we see a rush, and sometimes we see misunderstanding in terms of, well, this is a financial system and it's got to be the same. It's not the same. It's completely different premise, and people need to understand that premise before they can get engaged into it.
And what do you think will be the big growth products over the next 12, 18 months?
I think there will be more focus on small and medium enterprises. The fact that everybody now acknowledges the importance of government intervention, I think the best place for the government to intervene would be small and medium enterprises, issuing sukuks, for example, helping out those enterprises to grow. And we have witnessed also people shying away from big projects. So I think small and medium enterprises would be the new path for us to go, and it's very healthy, and I would recommend it as a tool as well.
Thank you very much, Dr. Al Chaar.